So, hello, Rodrigo. Welcome to our program, Consciousness in Evolution. We had
Thank
some
you.
technical issues, okay? So, we are going to get started. We are going to go immediately to our webinar today with Rodrigo Marchioli about cosmoethics and evolution. So, Rodrigo, let's get started.
Yeah, thank you, Eliane, for the invitation and everyone who's watching us live and the others that will watch us after our webinar, which is occurring right now. And it's a real pleasure to talk about with you about this topics of cosmoethics and evolution, which are, you know, we had I don't know how to say that in English. Morning tertulia. Could I say like this? Yeah, we
Sid.
we we had a morning tertulia today, which talked about the main or the most broad concepts we have, or the most large concepts we have in conscientiology. And you know what was elected as the number one concept? You saw that? No, the number one concept elected in for between the volunteers of conscientiology and researchers of conscientiology was cosmoethics. So it was chosen as the main concept of conscientiology. So it's a really tough challenge to talk about cosmoethics, and we'll try to do that and relate with the consciousness evolution. I think your mic's closed.
I do agree it's very challenging to understand what is ethics and
Yes,
what is cosmoethics. I think it's something we still make a lot of confusion. What do you
yes, yes,
think?
yes. Let's start from the beginning and from the principles of everything relating to cosmoethics. So we will be able to understand afterwards what is the relation between cosmoethics and consciousness evolution. So the first thing we need to understand is the difference between cosmoethics and ethics. I think this is the first step we have to take in order to really understand what we are saying, or what we are trying to say when we talk about cosmoethics. So in a very simple way, we can say that ethics, both ethics and cosmoethics, they are a set of values. Let's think in this way. It's a set of values. So, okay, they are both a set of values, but what differentiate cosmoethics and ethics if they are both a set of values? So, in the first place, I think we need to know that this set of values, or in first place, values can be of many natures. So, when we are talking about ethics, we are talking about moral values. So, I could talk about I don't know, social values, legal values, cultural values, religious values. I could talk about every kind of value, but here we are talking about moral values, which we can think it's the basis of all the other values. We can say it's a genre of values, and all the other kinds of values, they are a species of this genre of values, which are the moral values. So both ethics and cosmoethics is a set of moral values. This is the first point we need to understand here. And do you have a question, Eleni?
Yeah, no, just a comment. And these
Yes.
moral values lead our behavior in
Yes.
society, in everyday life.
Yes,
and we
yes,
get them from our groups, okay? So
yes,
this
yes.
is ethics, basically.
This is ethics. Yes. So let's say we have in our neighborhood or in our city a set of values, and we comply with them. We have we can also say that we have here in Brazil we are divided. Our country is divided in states. We are constituted of a federation. So we have many states here in Brazil, and one of its states is Paraná, which is located in the south of Brazil, and Iguaçu Falls is located in Paraná. So uh, Paraná also have its values, and Brazil, if we can go broader and broader with this, let's say, this territory circumscription of ethics. We can start from our home, maybe, and then with our neighborhood, our city, our country, our, I don't know, continent, and our planet. We can go in this way. So each of these circumscriptions have a specific set of values. So when we are talking about cosmoethics, what could we think? We're talking about values that are applicable in the whole cosmos. So it's very challenging because we cannot even establish uh, right in a right way what are the exact values of our, I don't know, our country or even of our planet. So it's a real great challenge to try to understand what are the set of values that are applicable in the cosmos. So
Yes,
this is a first major problem we have in cosmoethics.
very, very good put. And it made me think that we have to have parapsychism. We have to
Yes,
develop parapsychism to perceive other dimensions, to have parapsychic phenomena, to be able to understand this dynamics, this cosmic dynamics, to understand its
yes,
values.
yes. So um, just to make this statement clear that um this reasoning very clear that I was developing. So um, we have this ethics problem, which we actually nowadays we are dealing very much with it. For instance, when we talk about uh, let's say human rights, when we think about human rights, which is an attempt to universalize some kind of moral law, this is important for us to think because we had to have in mind that we are when we are talking about ethics or cosmoethics, we are talking about morals. So morals, differently from ethics, is something personal. This is an important thing to know. Moral is a set of personal values or a set of personal moral values. Obviously, it's kind of redundant to say in this way, but an ethics is a set of group values, the values of the moral values of a certain group. So this is the reasoning that we are trying to develop here in order to reach what is cosmoethics. And just another point I would like to mention, as I was saying that the moral values is the most fundamental values we have. This happens. This is actually the case because when we can also refer ourselves to these moral values as with other name, which is axiology. And axiology is the study or the science of these values which are in the basis or in the axis, because when we say axis or basis is the most fundamental. So uh, we can really understand how we direct ourselves in our behaviors when we study ethics and morals, because it's the most fundamental substrate that we have in our consciousness regarding behavior. So if we behave in some way, in the most fundamental basis must be a moral value.
Can I
So
ask a question?
yes,
Look, we there is some people, some researchers say that ethics that you said it's the group values,
yes,
but some people say ethics is when we reflect, is the reflection about the morals. Uh,
hmm,
okay, I think it's connected
yes,
because when we reflect about the others, values and morals, we are reflecting about this great, bigger field of study that is ethics. Am I
yes,
right?
yes. Everything is interconnected. So that there's no ethics without morals, and there is no maybe there is moral without ethics. There are some philosophers that will say that the most important thing for us to think is about morals and not ethics, because when we think about ethics, we are trying to, in some sort of sense, to comply with the other's values, with the values of the other people. And in the first place, we should think about our own values, and then we can think or reflect, as you said, about the values of the other people and if I agree with them or not. So the most important thing is actually is not the ethics, is the moral, because the moral is really is the place where I can really define what is important to me, and where I can be, in some sense, free to choose. Because if I'm trying to comply with ethics, I am not being totally free in my decision. I'm just following the current, let's say. So I tend to agree that the most important thing that we have to put our attention is in morals, the moral problem. Is the things that I do when nobody's watching. This is the myth of the Gigas ring, which was utilized by Plato in the Republic book when he was trying to explain what morals is, and he used that metaphor or this myth of the ring of Gigas to say that moral is something that we do even when nobody's watching us, because the ring of gigs had the power to make people invisible. And also the Lord of Rings books written by Tolkien was based on this kind of myth. So, if we also think in the Lord of Rings books, the Tolkien was trying to he wrote the whole story of the Lord of the Rings just to discuss morals. So, what do we do when nobody's watching? This is the main topic of morals. So Plato used that metaphor and that myth to talk about it, and I think this is the most important thing that we actually must to have in mind. So, uh, starting from this point, and afterwards, we start to think about ethics, and we look around and we start to see that in different groups there are different ethics. So in our neighborhood, in our country, in other countries, in other cultures, there are different kinds of ethics. But we can also see this differentiation in not in this separation between territories and countries. We see that in communities, like for instance, if we say if we see the ethics of mafia or the mobs is totally different. I think it's totally different from the ethics we have in our conscientiological conscientiological community. So it's a different ethic that we have between the those two groups. So this is just to understand what morals and ethics is. But coming back to the point that you said about the parapsychism, um, I think this is the main point where we start to think about cosmoethics, because cosmoethics is, or uh, maybe ethics, not actually cosmoethics, but talking a little bit more of ethics. It's a matter of perspective. So depending on your perspective, you will establish uh, some values based on that. So obviously, the ethics of the group you are inserted will impact the way that you establish your own values, your morals, right? So if you are in a group or in a neighborhood, a country, a city that have some really deeply established set of values that will probably impact the way that you establish the values for yourselves. That is your morals, right? So that definition of the morals, which are the personal values that we have, it's a really uh, great set of uh, elements and factors and aspects that influentiate the definition of our own values. So our family, our group, our city, our culture, our country, that will all impact in our own values and our experiences. This is the point I was trying to reach, because not only the ethics that are around me that will impact my morals, but also my experiences. And I think this is a really important point. What experiences I had in my life that can explain my morals? This is a really critic question that we have to ask ourselves. So I can make a reversal engineering when to know about my values, my morals, my own values, my personal values. It's all synonyms of the same thing. So I can do a reversal engineering, looking at my behaviors. So how do I behave with animals, with children, with women, or with politicians? And which side is more interesting for me? The left side of politics, or the right wing, left wing? I am more a conservative person, or am I more progressive person? So this can tell about my own values. But sorry, just to finish, in the most fundamental point that can tell about my values are my experiences. This is a very important point. But sorry, Yanni.
Yeah, I want to explore a little bit more about these experiences. For example, What do you mean? Experiences that I look for, I myself go after new experiences, new to study new things,
Yeah.
or there are certain situations in which we were put in certain situations, certain contexts.
Mm-hmm.
I will mention an example. A person is born in a very difficult environment, political environment, and he
Yeah.
has some experiences that we can't figure out because we haven't
Yes.
been
Yes.
there in that context. So it was his experience, although it was more connected to his ego karma and group karma. And so, but it is an experience to be considered. And on the other hand, there are people who come to environments and contexts that are um, making things easier for us to have experiences and develop, for example, parapsychism, develop cognition. So, what do you think is the
Yes.
difference between?
Yeah. We cannot. Uh, we cannot. Obviously, all these aspects you said, they are really important, and we have to take it then into consideration. But I think we cannot reduce the complexity of consciousness into them, because we know, I'm skipping a little bit my reasoning, but um, you know that the consciousness is not something that have only life, that only lives on. That this is not the only life that consciousness is having. Consciousness had other lives, and yes, we have our social and environmental problems that can hinder some parapsychism experiences, but we know that all of this is a consequence of something that happened before. As you said, it's something related with the concepts that we talk about in conscienciology, like ego karma and group karma and this kind of thing. But what I was trying to say is that the personal experience is something which is critical and absolutely fundamental to define the moral values, the personal values. This is it's kind of hypothesis, but I think it's a statement that is really hard to surpass it. It's not possible to say otherwise. It's almost not possible to say otherwise. So this is about morals. And but when we talk about cosmoethics, it's the same reasoning, but I think it's almost impossible to detour from this path and say that somebody could reach the understanding of cosmoethics without parapsychic experiences. This is something which I regard as fundamental, and we could discuss on that, because I think it's uh, almost impossible. I cannot say impossible, but I would say almost impossible for someone to realize the necessity of cosmoethics without personal parapsychic experiences. I have some arguments to defend this position, but I don't know if you want to add something to that.
No, I do agree. I do agree. It's but parapsychism without knowledge, I think we have to study to have a scientific mental somatic parapsychism. Otherwise, we are going to go to have parapsychic experiences and go into mystic lines, religious lines, and not use parapsychism with all its potential.
Yeah.
So we have to carry out both mental somatic investments in really study things, study, experience, parapsychism. Then we will be more prepared to understand cosmoethics.
Yes.
That's the way I'm seeing based on this um, line of thought that you were
Yeah.
talking about.
But, you know, imagine a person which is a really materialistic person, which only thinks that there's nothing beyond this life, this dimension, the material world. There's nothing beyond that. And this person could study a lot about cosmoethics, but it wouldn't make sense to this person. So, what I'm trying to say is that this person would not change its own values, its morals, in a more cosmoethical way because this person did not have the experiences that showed to her or to him that there is a further reality which goes beyond this dimension, this physical dimension, this three-dimensional reality that we are seeing, or quadridimensional, because time we don't know, we cannot see time, right? But we know that science states that our dimension is a quadridimensional. But um, the person that cannot see beyond that uh, cannot could not have experience that could show to her or to him that kind of reality. I think it's very, very difficult to develop synapses that would lead this person to think more in his or her morals in a more cosmoethical way. This is my hypothesis, but I think it's almost impossible to go around it.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think, Eliane, that somebody could reach cosmoethics with just knowledge about cosmoethics without the experiences or
Um,
psychic experiences?
no, I think it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Although I know people who have a very high level
Hmm.
in studies, study a lot, and is considered even above average. And this person studies conscienciology, but doesn't have parapsychism developed as he would like to have. And although he thinks that it's coherent and he follows his reasoning, the
Hmm.
logic of the things we study in conscienciology. So, but as far as parapsychism is concerned, he still has been struggling to have
Yeah.
perception of energies. So it's something. It's an exception, okay?
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yes. Yeah. I think the person could comprehend and understand what we are talking about in a logic
a
and
logical way.
intellectual way. Yes, but
A way.
imagine I don't know if it's the best example I will give you, but imagine I am trying to talk about, I don't know, maybe women ethics without being a woman, without being a woman. So I could understand that.
It's
Uh,
more difficult.
yes, and maybe I'm just reproducing a narrative, but I'm actually not understanding exactly what women are talking about because I'm just seeing the coherence of the narrative and the logic of all of it, but I don't actually understand it.
Yes, and Rodrigo, it's that's the point. That's very important when we know the thing. This is very important when we mention intellectuality and experience. Experience
Yes.
is very important. It's more important than intellectuality. But
Yes, yes,
if we
yes,
have the
yes.
intellectuality, the theory about it, it will make
You
things much
know,
coherent.
it's like talking about, I don't know, the smell of a flower or the flavor of a chocolate without ever experimenting it. I could tell you because I learned about it. I know that, I don't know, maybe somebody told me that a chocolate is sweet. It have a smooth flavor. It looks like a brownish thing, but I never saw it and never experienced it. So how can I talk about it? I think the same is that the same problem we have in cosmoethics, because how can I really say that I understood it without experiencing that reality that shows me that consciousness is much more than this body, and I need this is a problem that I need something that can encompasses this broadness of consciousness, which is not physical, and that's when cosmoethics comes into place.
Very
But
well. I
okay,
have a question.
yeah, we have a question.
I
Yes.
have a question from Anna Yogam. What would be the relationship between the end of civilizations and corruption of principles and values? There are some civilizations we know that started in ancient times, but they end up being, they
Yeah.
don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that that was
I
related to
think.
their understanding of
Yeah.
cosmoethics.
I think there's some correlation, but I'm into these 2 points: the corruption of principles and values, and the end of some civilizations. I think that there is a link, and I will develop and explain this link a little bit later. But first, I think there are many other points that lead to the end of some civilization. I think we cannot say that only the corruption of principles and values that lead a civilization to its end. It's a multi-factor, multi-cause factors that we could point that lead a civilization to its end. But I think if we can think about our present civilization, the human civilization that inhabits Earth nowadays, and we can see very clearly that this quote corruption of principles and values, quote unquote corruption of principles and values, it's really leading us to our end, to our perishment. Because you see, if we were more concerned about about the values and principles that are really important to protect, like for instance, the respect for our environment. We do not respect our environment. We are always polluting, uh, putting trash everywhere. The oceans are completely became a completely disposal of trash, and we have plastics everywhere. We have burns everywhere. So behind all these problems, there are uh, ethical, and we could say obviously, we if we have ethical problems with this kind of thing, we are not respecting our environment. This is an ethical problem. This is not even a cosmoethical problem. This is an ethical problem. So if we cannot even respect some principles and values that are related to ethics, imagine cosmoethics. But this example of our present civilization is a good example that this kind of corruption can really move us to our end, and it's moving to our end. We are seeing the basically we are in a really threatening position where the mankind is really in a threat to end, to be vanished from Earth, because we are transforming our planet into something that cannot be inhabited by us. So I think there is a strong correlation between those 2 points, but I think there are many others that goes after this principle and value problem that you pointed out. So thanks, Anna. That's a good question.
And well, to come
So
back to our main
yes.
line of thought, I would like to know more. How can we understand more the extra-physical realities and
Hmm.
then become more cosmoethical?
Yes. So coming back to this point, I think some things we have to have a real clear thought about them. So the first thing is that personal experience is something that really is really correlated with the establishment of our own values, our morals, that will show us if we complying with ethics or not. This is the first point. The second point that I'm saying is that parapsychic experience is which is the thing that really conduces us to cosmoethics. Otherwise, we can think about cosmoethics, but we cannot actually understand what cosmoethics is. We are without the parapsychic experience, we would be in some level of ethics, or in a mystical ethic. Let's say it's not something that have some level of reality. If you understand what I'm saying, it's very important to have the personal experience, because we can um, we can establish this cosmoethics in something real, which is our own experience. So this is the two important points here. So you asked me, what is the way to actually reach cosmoethics? So I think uh, when we say about parapsychism, I think this is actually not the ideal thing to say, because I think the most important thing that we had to think about, it's not parapsychism, but it's the out of body experience and consciousness projection, as we say in conscienciology. Because when we have this kind of experience, out of body experience, this is no longer parapsychism. This is the actual experience of the astrophysical reality. When we have parapsychism experience, parapsychic experience, we are like touching or scratching the extra physical, the multidimensional reality of consciousness. But when we have an out of body experience, which can be any out of body experience, actually, it could be spontaneous, it could be induced, it could be even a traumatic one. When we have a near death experience, for example, it's a really clarifying experience for the person who have it, that consciousness is much more than physical body, and that lead us to a necessity of transformation. That is the real importance of the out of body experience, not parapsychism. Because parapsychism, Eliane, Many of us have parapsychism, and that does not change the person. The person actually stays the same in many times.
Right, you're right. We are ectoplasts. We have perception of
Yes,
energies, and this is a
yes,
start. But
yes,
for out of body experience are the key.
yes. When you have a really self-convincing out-of-body experience, um, I do not like to give my example, but I had one when I was 16 years old, and uh, that was remarkable for me and made me be here today. So after 20 years, I'm 36 now. After 20 years, I'm still thinking about it, and I'm still amazed by it, and trying to develop myself further and further, because I had this kind of experience when I was 16, so 20 years ago, and it never died inside me, this experience. So it's very different when somebody has a parapsychic experience, when you feel the energies, and you saw, I don't know, a spectral thing, like a ghost, I don't know, something like this. You call a ghost, but we call astrophysical consciousness. But I think that the really changing point, which really changes the game we are playing, is the out of body experience. So I would say to somebody that wants to really change its perspective about life, its own values, and go in a way more related to cosmoethics, I would say to invest in out of body experience, and if it's possible, in cosmic consciousness, which is a species of out of body experience.
The mental somatic out of body experience that is in which we feel united with the cosmos and we are able to understand this the way the this cosmic mechanism works. That's what you mean, Rodrigo?
Yes, yes, because when we have, you know, uh, out of body experience, or a consciousness projection, as we usually say in conscienciology, it's the very first step, but very important step, that guides us and show us that astrophysical reality, and can conduce us to think about. And that's why I think that have that connection that you said before about the reflection, that makes us reflect very deeply about our values. So we most of the times, we see, when we have this kind of experience, we see that our values are very tiny, tiny small values, and principles. And when we have an out of body experience, like a projection of the consciousness, with in a lucid way, and very conscious way, we start to reflect about our own values. But we saw we when we have an out of body experience, we are just seeing, uh, you know the first page of the multidimensional reality. But once we have many other experiences, out of body experiences, we start to understand a little bit more this kind of reality, and we start to have other, um, other views, and other start to develop other arguments, to go even deeper and deeper in this transformation, in this development of our own values and principles. So uh, I will get to the cosmic consciousness just a moment, but I will get that. I'm just trying to show the difference between the out of body experience and the cosmic consciousness, or the cosmic consciousness. So when we have more and more out of body experiences, the first thing that we see when these experiences are lucid and conscious, we see that uh, life is not finite. We do not die. So everything, most of the people, or most of the ethics we have here on Earth is based on the supposed allegedly supposed fact that we die. So I can do whatever I want. There's no problem because I will die and everything will vanish. So there's no problem. So when we have an out of body experience, this kind of concept, it that concept that actually dies and not our body that dies. So this is a very concerning point because, well, if everything that I'm doing here have a continuation for other life and other dimensions, this is very problematic because what I'm actually doing with people and with myself here, I start to think about it because I do not die. Life does not resumes itself to biological life. So this is a very problematic problem and makes me think about the values that I have and the tininess of these values, and I have to think more expanded about these values. So this starts to develop what we are talking about, which is cosmoethics. This is the basis of cosmoethics. Is when I see this kind of reality, you see that there is a multi-dimensional the dimensionality reality. There is a multi-existential reality. There are more evolved consciousness, and these other consciousness, they become a parameter for our own values. When you see, oh, that you see out of your body, because here in this dimension, physical dimension, it's hard to find this kind of evolved consciousness. But when you are out of your body, it's easier. It's not easy, but it's easier. So you see that evolved consciousness, and you see, whoa, this consciousness is very different. What did she or he did to become this evolved? And you see its values, you see its principles. So you start to understand what cosmoethics is. So all of these points we can extract from out of body experiences. But when you have a cosmic consciousness experience, which is also an out of body experience, you can multiply this knowledge by millions, you know, this kind of contact and knowledge that you can extract by millions. So that's why I say that especially cosmic consciousness is so important to us regarding cosmetics.
Very good. Now I understand better, Rodrigo. Thanks very much for your explanation. It's very, um, how do I say, when we do the parallel between out of body experience and cosmic consciousness, it's a potentialization of the the power of the extra physical projection.
Mm-hmm.
You really put more strength on it. I have a question from Melanie, and it's very much related to what you were talking about. Would effective altruism and long-termism cares about people of the future who are not born yet and their rights be considered in the cosmoethical area? It's based on the book What We Owe the Future by MacAskill. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, great question, Melanie. Thank you. Um, the answer is yes and no, both at the same time. Because no, if you are not considering in this, as you said, effective altruism and long termism, if you are not considering in these two perspectives, the if I could summarize in some words, would be the conscientiological paradigm. So if you're not considering these 2 points that in a way that considers the multidimensionality, multi-existentiality, and the non-finite existence of consciousness, if you do not consider these aspects, so it's just ethics. But if you consider, if you take action and you decide based on these 2 points you said, but you are thinking when you are establishing your values, you are reflecting, you are doing some self-reflection about these 2 points you said. But in this self reflection, you are considering the experiences you had, like an out of body experience, and you are considering into these reflections, this reality that unfolded to you, that you discovered by your own experiences. So you are uh, thinking in a cosmoethical way. Otherwise, if you're not considering, as I said, in a few words, the conscientiological paradigm, there's no cosmoethics. If you're not considering when you are thinking about your values and principles about multidimensionality and multi-existentiality, there's no cosmoethics. There's only ethics. Actually, these 2 points you asked and you referred to the book. I sorry, but I never heard about this book, but I have a master degree in human rights, and in human rights we talk a lot about this. As you're saying, long termism when we're talking about environmental rights. So it's the duty of doing something which will allow the future generations to utilize the resources that we have now. So this is a very sad principle that we have in environmental law. So this is basic law. This is intraphysical and conventional law, environmental law. This is a principle of environmental law. This is not cosmoethics, because when people is talking about it, they are not thinking about multidimensionality or multi-existentiality. They're just thinking about the next generations, but they are not thinking of the consequences, the multidimensional consequences or the multi-existential consequences of its acts. They are thinking just about their children, their granddaughter, grandson. They're just thinking the next generations. But they are not thinking in the implications or the multidimensional implications of its acts. When you are thinking about your values and you are thinking about the multidimensional implications of your acts, so you are thinking in a cosmoethical way. Otherwise, it's just ethics, conventional law. There's nothing new about it.
It all depends on us as
Yes.
we get to know the and understand this multidimensional and the seriality itself. We are here and we have had multiple lives. We still have some in different countries, in different groups and families that we have affinity with. So things are different, and we can, if that is a value for us, then it's cosmoethics. Very
Yes.
good, Rodrigo. Well, Rodrigo, we are near the end. We have some 5 minutes, and if you, I don't know if you, what you plan to talk, if there is something more to add, we have still 5 minutes, okay?
Okay. No, I think the main point I could transmit here that I wanted to say, I think I said the main points that I programmed to talk here, but just to make it more clear, what is this paradigm shift uh, when we have the out of body experience or the cosmic consciousness experience? What it represents, this paradigm shift? So I enlisted 4 points that represents this paradigm shift. The first point I think I said a lot here, which is no materialism. There's no way to say somebody is acting cosmoethically if this person is not thinking about multidimensionality or multi-existentiality. It's impossible to say that somebody is acting or thinking or reflecting cosmoethically in a materialistic way. It's impossible. So this is the first point. The second point, which is fundamental, is altruism, or as we say in conscientiology, interassistentiality. There's no way somebody is being a cosmoethical one without interassistance or even assistance in being somebody altruistic. It's impossible. If the person is only thinking about itself, this is not cosmoethical. The third point is some kind of evolutionary or evolutive thinking. So when you think that consciousness is evolving, is in evolution. So I divide the concept of evolution in 2 points, which is, for the first one, is kind of parameter, as I said, the evolved consciousness have, which is serenity. This is a really good criteria to know if somebody is evolved or not, is the level of serenity of this person. And erudition, which is the whole knowledge that the person have about everything, basically. And the last point would be this transcendental morality, which is kind of an outcome of the previous points. So I think this was the last point that I written down here to talk about today. And I think this is it, Eliane. I don't know if there's any other question, but this
No,
is
no,
what I,
just please, can you repeat these 5 things for me
four
to
four
write?
things. Four
Four
things.
things.
Four things. Yes.
I took serenity, erudition. Serenity is
Yeah.
number three. Erudition,
Serenity plus erudition is the
number
is the
three.
division of to explain. I divided evolution into these 2 points to explain what evolution is. So we can say somebody is evolving when this person is becoming more intelligent or more uh, with more erudition and more serenity. So if the person is developing into these 2 points, I can say that the person is evolving, right? And
Right.
so there are 4 points. So, but this third point is divided into 2 points.
Very good then, people. So Rodrigo, it was great. Thank you very much for being here with us today. And thanks for everyone also. Despite our technical issues in the beginning, we were able to do the live, and I will share the link with others who weren't able to watch live, okay, so that they can watch later. And I'm happy to have you all here and hope to see you in our next webinar, okay? And see you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.